This is the Entertainment Answer.
And welcome to the Entertainment Answer. I am Matt Mongol. For everything that we do, check out the entertainmentanswer.com. It is Oscar weekend. It is like the Super Bowl for movie lovers. And we've been talking about this since October last year, getting ready for this event. Joining me, as always, Mr. Bryan Kluger, High Def Digest, Boomstick Comics, and as I'm learned today, other places. Uh, so, my friend, are you ready for the Oscars? Are you good? Are you pumped? Are you excited about this weekend as I am?
Yes, I am, and I'll tell you why.
Why?
Usually, as memory serves us both correctly, I know our minds are going as the older we get. You're older than I am, but I used to hate the Oscars. I used to not watch the Oscars or award show, right?
I know you did. You were like anti-Oscars.
And now I feel like I have more of a stake in it for some reason. And with this year, I love Brendan Fraser so much. I love Michelle Yeoh so much. I love these movies so much. Top Gun! I mean, I'm invested. I'm invested, Matt, and that's why I love it. I want to see Brendan Fraser up there holding an Oscar.
So it's not that you drank the Kool-Aid, it's just that you are invested more in the nominees this year. Is that what, like, if, let's say The Whale was completely blank, like Babylon is, like The Whale was not even in the running. If everything, anything, everywhere, all at once, all that stuff wasn't nominated, would you still be watching and invested in the Oscars?
No, I would not, because it would be like a nomad land type of year. I'm not into it. Like, I'm not, I want something good. Like Top Gun, everything, everywhere, all at once. There's some good stuff in here, good actors, good actresses. I'm very excited about this year.
Well, I'm excited about every year because the Oscars, like I said, are always like my Super Bowl. And I love to watch regardless, even if there's films in there that there's been years that my film didn't win, and the films that did win, I wasn't really on board with. There's been some years I'm like, whatever. I mean, the Oscars can be odd, but I just think it's a good time regardless. But like you said, I am excited. I posted some stuff a while back that, I mean, this is the first time since 1983 where two of the top grossing films of the year were nominated for Oscars. Usually the top grossing films that everybody goes to see don't make the Oscar Best Picture list. This year, Avatar, Way of Water, and Top Gun Maverick did. You got to go all the way back to E.T. and Tootsie in 1983, that year. So, I mean, it's a good year for fans of movies to kind of rally around the Oscars.
Which is crazy, because if you go back, it's an interesting, like, maybe subject or future topic, is to go back and the movies that made the most money, were they actually good? Because Top Gun's actually good. So I'm curious to see if that has anything to do with it since 1983, because E.T.'s amazing, Tootsie's amazing. But since then, the top grossing movies of all time, I mean, I guess Titanic might have done it too, since that one, or Lord of the Rings. But I'm curious because I wouldn't put Titanic and Lord of the Rings as Best Picture, but they were nominated.
You know what? Yeah, you and I could do a whole show about arguing about Titanic, of course. But I mean, that'd be like if a couple years ago, if the Avengers Endgame would have been nominated for Best Picture.
And it should have been, because that movie's great. That movie's so good on so many levels.
Right. So I mean, that's what it feels like this year, is finally the Oscars are maybe paying attention to some of the highest grossing films, or maybe it was just one of those where it's just a perfect storm where, like, I mean, because yeah, Top Gun Maverick is an amazing movie. Avatar, Way of Water, it's whatever. But just the fact that those are in the nomination lists, I think, mean a lot.
Right. Oh, I'm very happy. I'm very happy. As Spielberg said in the interview, Spielberg himself, Tom Cruise and Top Gun probably saved Hollywood.
It did. And he was so smart not to release it during a pandemic on streaming. He said, no, I'm going to wait. I don't care if it's 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. This thing's going to hit the big screen. And it got everybody back in the theaters.
Yep. That's true.
All right.
Triple
Well, I
truth.
also want to point out on last week's show we were talking about Creed 3. You predicted that it would be number 1 at the box office. And sure enough, we look at the box office totals. Creed 3 number 1 with 58.4 million, dethroning Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I was skeptical. I didn't know if
You
Creed 3
were.
would bump it off or not, even as bad as Ant-Man is.
Creed 1 and Creed 2 are very good. They made a lot of money. People are invested in that Rocky franchise and the Creed franchise, and people love Jonathan Majors and people love Michael B. Jordan. I couldn't see an instance where Creed would not dethrone anything at the moment. And that $60 million is a lot.
It is a lot. And I mean, Ant-Man 3 weeks in, it seems to me unprecedented that a Marvel film is dropping out at only 3 weeks. I mean, 12.8 million, it barely beat Cocaine Bear. Is it just because Ant-Man is in the Wasp is just not that great a film?
It's not a good film, and I think people are just sick of Marvel right now doing the same dumb things. They're waiting for Guardians. They're more invested in Guardians. So
Yeah. And I just rewatched the first Guardians, I think yesterday or day before. That's just a solid little franchise within the MCU.
it sure is. It sure is.
Yeah, well, this week we're going to be talking about the new Scream film. We're going to get in a little deeper into the Scream franchise in a little bit later in the show. And normally this is a topic we would be talking about in October, I don't know, late September, definitely October. But with the Scream franchise, the sixth film in it, what is the fascination? And you would probably be a good person to ask because you do a My Bloody podcast. You're kind of into the whole horror genre, even deeper than just the mainstream. What is the fascination with these type of flicks, especially the Scream franchise that are so brutal in these little small towns, and Ghostface just being just a brute with this knife? What is our fascination as moviegoers with this?
Well, I think with Scream, particularly the Scream franchise, you have Wes Craven behind it. And, he's one of the maestros of horror. He brought Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger, one of the original slasher movies, and people like a slasher movie. And so with those franchises, what Wes Craven did before it was cool was turning the horror genre meta. They talked about what not to do in a scary movie because before Scream, it was like, look out, woman, you got a knife. Look out. Why is this dumb person going by himself in the dark alley? They addressed these verbatim in a comical way and satire way in these movies. And I think people really gravitated towards that, all the while having those genre tropes of a slasher in there, but being fully self-aware. And I think that's why Scream speaks to its audience.
Yeah, and I will say that that's one thing I liked and appreciated because I'm not a big horror fan. I've gotten into it a little bit more lately, but I do think that Scream almost breaks that wall without breaking it. It's like they're talking to the characters, but they're talking to the audience as well. And you're right, they brought in pop culture, they brought in, references. It's like they didn't try to pretend like they're out of the world doing something on their own like other films. They were like, we're in the culture. We're going to talk about the culture. And they reference things, they call each other names that are prominent in pop culture. And it's like almost you immediately as a fan feel like you're sitting in the room with them. And I think that's cool.
Right, because that we have all had that conversation. You hear it live in a movie theater,
Mm-hmm.
So it was great when Wes Craven tapped into that with Scream. And then throughout the franchise, they get a little more. They talk about sequels. They talk about the third in the franchise, what it means. And then with Scream 6, they finally got to take, most of these horror movies either in a small town or a suburb or even in a wooden cabin somewhere in the woods, much like the Scream franchise took place in a very small town separate from a big city. And Friday the 13th always took place at Camp Crystal Lake until Jason Takes Manhattan put that mofo in Manhattan Big Apple. My God, what's going to happen? And that's why I liked that Scream 6, was you have that things like safety in numbers, you know, like you're going to be safe with a lot of people. There's Ghostface killer Jason Voorhees. He ain't going to attack people in, you know, a convenience store. He's not going to attack people in a subway car because you're safe. Not the case. It makes it scarier.
Yeah, and I think that's something too that even though they've made fun of the genre, they make fun of themselves. These films are just terrifying. I mean, there is something more brutal, and we're going to get into this a little bit later in the show as we break down the other five films and kind of rank them as far as where they fall on the spectrum. But Ghostface, to me, no matter who it is wearing the mask, has always just been a very terrifying figure in the horror world. And so, even set in New York, in the midst of a crowd, whether they're on their own, no matter what they're doing, he's just one of the scariest, I think, out there.
He is, because he's like the shape, like he's like a shape that appears with a mask. You don't see who it is, and you know it has that Scooby Doo quality at the end of every movie of who it is, who they are. It in Scream 6, it's he's much more brutal. Like it's like he's stronger, and it's Ghostface Killer is just more terrifying because I like in the other Scream movies, unlike Jason, unlike Mike Myers, where they're just like this force brick wall that nothing can take them down, but like an easy punch or an easy throw of a glass flower vase will knock them down. So they seem more realistic, but they always get back up. And that's terrifying to me.
It is. We're talking about the Scream franchise. Matt Mungle, Bryan Kluger here. We'll have to take a small break. When we come back, we're going to rank the other five Scream films from best to worst because I'm interested to see where they fall on Brian's list because I have my favorites for sure, and I just rewatched them all. So you're on the Entertainment Answer, theentertainmentanswer.com. But we're talking about Scream because the new Scream film is out. Bryan Kluger hanging out with me here talking about this. He knows, he's forgotten more about horror films than I will know. So I think it's always fun to pick his brain as we talk about Scream, we talk about Ghostface, and of course the new film, Part 6, hitting theaters here this weekend. Did you ever think we'd get to a 6 in this franchise?
No, after 4, I didn't think they were going to come back to it, but I'm so happy they did.
You know what? I am too. And so I want to get in here in this segment and talk about what we loved about each of the films and how we rank them. Of the other five, which one was your least favorite of the pre-5?
4.
Really?
4 is my least favorite.
Why was it? What was it about 4 that you didn't like?
I just thought it got a little silly. It got a little. I think they were trying to do too much with the characters and movie. Even though I liked Kirby Reed, I liked everybody still being in it. I just think that it was it was trying to do too much, and I think it was too on the nose from what we had seen. Because I mean, from 4, the third one, because I think 1 through 3 was really doing it really well. But with 4, I think they just kind of almost jumped the shark there. So that's what I think all in all with 4.
And number 4 is number 4 the one where they're on the film set? Is that 4?
Yes.
Right. So they're doing the film set, and that the one where, because I'm trying to remember because 4 to me was next to last. 3 to me is my least favorite. And I think, isn't 3 the one where they're streaming it, where the guy's walking around with the headset streaming the whole thing? It was 4 as well.
I'm trying to remember with 3, because I actually rather liked 3. I think 3 is it's between 3 and 5. That would be my second to last. And I might go 5 actually. I'm really trying to remember that.
Yeah. 3 is the one. 3 is the one where they're in the on the set of staff.
Okay, 3 is the one of those. Okay, on the set. Okay, that's right.
Yeah, so that's my least favorite when they're shooting the Scream film and they're on set. But
Okay,
then,
so you didn't like that one. So I thought that was an interesting way because Wes Craven, of course, directed it, and I just thought that was cool because they bring the Stab, fake franchise based off of the Scream murders of the first film in the second one, but in Scream 3 with that whole set thing of being on set, I think that's like a fun deal. It's kind of brings you back to Wes Craven's New Nightmare where Freddy comes back and everybody's kind of in real life experiencing Freddy. Like I thought that was pretty cool.
yeah, I don't know. Three just didn't. I felt like the characters in the plot, and then four is the one where it's the book tour. Like Sidney Prescott's written the book, and she comes back, and they're all still living in the town. And Gail Weathers, her book's not doing. I mean, she's kind of not doing much, and Dewey's back on the police force, and so it's like this whole book tour slasher. But four has probably, to me, one of the best casts as
Oh,
far as
for sure. Scream 4 having Emma Roberts and Hayden Panettiere and Adam Brody, Rory Culkin, Anna Paquin, Kristen Bell, Allison Brie. These were all people kind of before they were big. It's pretty awesome. It's a
right.
hell of a cast. Hell of a
It is.
cast.
It is. So is where does four? Because you said four was your least favorite. Where does three fall?
Um, 3. So yeah, 4 is my least favorite. So it would either be between 3 and 5, and I am going to put 5 as my second to last.
Interesting. So you really like three then, because three isn't at least in your top three. So are you doing one, two, and three as your top three?
Oh, I was gonna rank all of them, but yeah, I would say 3. Yeah, 3 is in there. Is in the I would say top 4 is 3, part
All
3.
right.
I think I like, and I think I'm biased because I like movies that deal with film sets, and
Hmm.
to add that, and that's why I like Wes Craven's New Nightmare so much because it deals with the film set and the making of a movie. I just think that's like brilliant.
All right. So you have four as your least favorite and five as your next to least favorite. I've got three as my least favorite and four as the next to least favorite because I didn't like the film set and I liked four. Four bumped up one because of the cast, as we just
Mhm.
talked about. So what's your third one then?
So my third one would be, all right. So all right, and we're doing 1 through 5, not including 6, right?
Yeah, we're not going to include six since a lot of people haven't seen six yet. It just came out this weekend.
Okay. So I've done Scream 4, and then I have Scream 5, and then yeah, so I guess Scream 3 would be my third one.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I just didn't like that one at all. So that's funny that
Okay.
that's your third one. That's my least favorite.
Okay.
I just don't know. I just didn't dig the film set. I think, and then I felt like again, I just felt like it wasn't. Yeah, I don't know. I just like the book tour more.
You like the
Well,
book tour? Okay. Yeah, no, I like the film set. I think it was cool.
yeah. Well, my third one is the second one, which again, it
Okay.
was the follow up to the first one, and I just thought it was still riding high on the first film. I think we were still having them young. This is when they've kind of gone off to college,
Right.
and yeah, they're kind of just trying to get their new life together. So that's my third favorite one. Is two.
Really, because I really like to, in the fact that I love the Jerry O'Connell and the Liev Schreiber characters a lot.
Yeah, Cotton is a fun character, man. He is a
Yeah.
fun character.
Yep.
I give you that for sure. So what's your second one?
My second, yeah, it would be Scream 2.
So two is your second one. Well,
Mhm.
for me, number five is my second one. I really enjoyed this
Ooh.
the one right before this one, and I know everybody says that. Our good friend Susan said that five's like one of her least favorite. I liked five. I like when you bring back the same reason I love the latest Jurassic Park movie. I like when you bring all these characters back, you show them where they are now, they've moved on in their lives, and they have to come together for this event thing. And so for me, I just really enjoyed five. I've watched five a couple of times. I like it.
And with 5, I do like a lot of elements of 5 But with seeing Scream 6, it seems like Olpen and Gillett, the Radio Silence directors, and Paramount having the franchise for the first time with 5, it seemed like they were holding back. They were too scared to really go where Scream 6 went. And I just think they didn't do a good job, and I totally blame studio execs with this, of not allowing for the new characters to really stand on their own. Even though I really love the Sydney, Gale, and Dewey, it could have been molded so much better. And even though I like elements of it, 6 made it great.
All right. Well, we're going to take a small break. When we come back, we're going to reveal our top Scream movie, which I think it's pretty obvious now which one we have picked. You're on the Entertainment Answer. It's our Scream weekend. Matt Mungle, Bryan Kluger hanging out, talking about Scream, the franchise, the new film, the 6th one in the franchise. I didn't think we would get this deep, said Ghostface. You got me too deep, man. Coming out this weekend. Interesting to see where it'll do in the box office. We've ranked our top films in the Scream franchise. For me, worst to best has been 3, 4, 2, and 5. Bryan went with 4, 5, 3, and 2, which means we haven't agreed on any of those at all.
That's true. We have not.
At all. But obviously, we kind of knew where our top ones would land. The only one left for both of us is the first one. What makes the first one so great? Is it because it's simply just the first one?
No, I think, man, it was the first of its kind. We had never seen anything like that before. That cold open, that first 10 minutes of the movie is so terrifying. Introducing all the characters, like that movie, maybe it's nostalgic reasons, but that movie still slays, and it's still so good. They've come close to recreating that a lot of times, and I think they've come the closest with 6. But yeah, number one, there's just something about it. It stands among the Friday the 13th, the Halloweens, the Nightmare on Elm Streets for me.
It does. And we're going to be, I shouldn't even have to say we're going to do spoiler alerts. If you haven't seen the first Scream or the first 3 Screams, that's on you, man. Maybe you're waiting to watch all 5 of them today before you go out and watch it this weekend. But what I love too about the first one is, you're right, especially watching it now, there is so much nostalgia in there with the popcorn on the stove and her watching television, and it's pre-internet, it's pre everything. There's, you call it, there's not even, caller ID hardly. There's nothing. I mean, it just feels very nostalgic. But then it also brought in the dual killer aspect that I'm trying to remember if we've never seen that before. And I remember watching it the first time. That was pretty cool twist, wasn't it? Or am I just not remembering that? Was that something cool for you, that when you found out there's actually 2 killers going on?
Right, for sure, because a lot of the folklore that was kind of talked about in some movies, the behind the mask and stuff like that, there's like, wait, I see this person walking in front of me, I'm going to run 2 miles in the opposite direction, and there's going to be somebody right around. Supernatural abilities, whatever, that's not in Scream. It is the dual killer. So there's 2 people doing the deed, which makes it all the more crazy when you think about it, that 2 people were on the same wavelength for this diabolical tomfoolery. So, and then amongst killing their high school friends, like, it's crazy. So
yeah, and it is one of those where it's like, it's not some deranged maniac who lives in the woods, it's not some avenging mother who lost her son at a camp, it's not some demented kid from folklore, it's your peers.
Yeah,
which,
who have trauma from like a divorce, basically.
Right. And having the 2 killers, I think, kept us on our toes, because it's like, the first person you would suspect is like, oh wait, but he's in the room when this attack took place, or yep, he's here. And even going into the second one, after you knew what happened in the first one, going into the second one and the third one, you expect the 2 killers. You don't really know who's together. And I think that's also been very good about the entire franchise, as I have appreciated going back and watching all five recently, is how they bait you with who the killer you think the killer is going to be. It's like they give you all of these clues and you're like, oh, it's obvious that person, and then it's not. So I think the
Right.
writing has been very cool about that.
It's the Scooby-Doo paradox. In addition, it is they lift the mask. Who is it? And they give the reason, but also you have that Scream aspect of them talking about who it's supposed to be in sequels. Why would it be the franchise players coming back? They have that stuff to throw you off, or like, maybe this is it.
Yeah. So who has been your favorite? Let's wait on favorite. Has there been which one was the biggest surprise to you? I don't know if you remember who killed and which ones, but I don't know how long it's been since you've watched them, but was there one that stands out in your mind of like you didn't see it coming or you weren't really happy with who it was?
Um, I mean, I guess there was it three that there was only one killer. I think
Yes.
that there
Yeah,
was only
3
one
was the
killer,
one
one
killer.
with a one killer, which was great. But I will say, I'm gonna say six, man. I'm gonna say that there are elements of that don't work, but I liked where they went with it, and I like how they did it. So I'm gonna say six was surprising to me because they really do throw you off in six.
Yeah. I felt honestly thrown off in all of them. There was times when even in, I think it was 3 where or no, it was 4 because Patrick Dempsey's playing the cop. And I thought it was going to be him. I really thought that it was going to be him, that he was somehow or another fascinated with this story and something was going to happen. And again, spoiler alert, it turns out to be the film's director. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's like, I don't know, that one to me was a big surprise. um I liked 5, and I know a lot of people, the reason 5 is their least favorite film is because of the reveal at the end, the whole thing about meeting online and doing this plot and trying to save a franchise. I thought that was cool. I didn't see that one coming at all.
I thought that was cool too. I thought that was one of the good aspects of Scream 5. I like that.
Yeah, so what was it about Scream 5 you didn't like then, if it's all the way down to number almost the last one on your list?
I just think that they didn't allow for much time with the new characters to really bond with them like you did with Gale Weathers, Sydney, and Dewey over the first movie. I just didn't care for them until part 6, where they allowed the ferocity and their trauma and all of that happening. I just felt like they were holding back so much in 5.
All
That's
right.
why I didn't like it as much.
All right. Well, good. Scream 6 in theaters this weekend. Where do you think it's going to fall? We talked. You nailed it last week. You said Creed 3 would take number 1 from Ant-Man. Is Scream 6, which was releasing, a lot of people are on spring break this weekend. It's one of those kind of films that everybody kind of goes to for fun, but it's also not Halloween. It's not also that time of year. Where do you think it's going to fall? Is it going to knock Creed 3 out?
Yes, for sure. But Creed 3 ain't going to be on top anymore. It is done. Scream 6 will be number 1 at the box office
So you
for
think
for this week, maybe next week. I would be willing to bet next week too, because I don't even remember what comes out next week.
I don't think much of anything. Well,
Yeah.
I don't think anything big comes out until Super Mario.
Well, like John Wick is going to be number 1. Shazam will be number 1. But I don't know if those are 2 weeks off or not. But I think until one of those movies, it's going to be it it is going to be Scream 6. Nothing else will beat it.
Now, you think we're in that time of year where every weekend there's going to be a new number 1? You don't think anybody will go 2 and 3 weeks at number 1 at this time
I
of year?
th- I think Scream 6 will, until John Wick um and the Shazam. I don't know about Dungeons and Dragons because people turn their nose up at Dungeons and Dragons, but maybe that will. But I think Scream 6 will be number one for the foreseeable future until John Wick or until Shazam.
Yeah, I see D&D being fun. I just don't know if this is the right time, if they've been marketing it well, because it's like, to me, I mean, there's a great cast. I mean, the film's going to look amazing. It's just not been on my radar at all.
Right. They haven't done a great job of marketing it, so I don't know how they're going to do it. It might be good. I play D&D too, so I'm excited for it. But
Yeah, yeah. Well, it'd be interesting to see. I was not surprised that Creed 3 was in number one. I'm wondering, I think it's still going to be close. I don't know if Scream 6 is going to hit number one.
Scream 6 will absolutely hit number one. Creed 3 will not be back in number one. It'll be number two.
When was the last time? I'm gonna have to look this up. We don't have to do it now, but I'm just curious on my own. When the last time an R-rated film coming out in March was the number one film, an R-rated horror film coming out this time of year was number one.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I mean, was Get Out? No, Get Out was February. Us was February, maybe March.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember.
Interesting. All right, well, we'll have to see. We'll have to see if it hits number one. So before we get out of here, I know we talked about The Whale, we talked about Top Gun, Avatar, Way of Water, all of that since it is Oscar weekend. But our final question, just as we wrap up this Scream and Oscar time, what's going to win Best Picture? Not your favorite, but what you think, because of the history of the Academy, what are they going to give Best Picture to this year?
I really think it's Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's been winning pretty much everything. I don't see them giving it to anything else but that. I'd be shocked if they gave it to Fabelmans, and I would be shocked if they gave it to anything else. I mean, the two movies that deserve it the most, Top Gun and Everything Everywhere All at Once, that are nominated, I'd be happy with those two. Anything else, I'd be upset.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. To be honest, if they gave it to the Fabelmans, I wouldn't be shocked, because I know the Academy and I know what they love. But I think you're right. I think Everything Everywhere All at Once has got the momentum, and I think they're going to pull it out. Well, again, that's Bryan. Check him out at boomstickcomics.com, highdefdigest.com. Everything we do, it's theentertainmentanswer.com. Follow our podcast out there as well. We go a little bit more in depth than what we do here on the show, and appreciate you guys hanging out with us each week. Let us know what you thought of Scream 6. We'll be back next week to talk about more films, television, and a lot other things right here. Thanks for being with us.